Hello friends, this is Darkscream and welcome back to another weekly vault. This week we've got a few more characters to do than last week, not quite as many as the Ultimate 8 Alt week, but since there's more Wings of Elevar open, we got more choices to make. Some of our characters did normal as well, and of course the main Ret Paladin here went quite far. Without further delay, let's see what we did. Alright, first up we got the Evoker. This transmog sucks. Now this Evoker gained quite a bit of item levels since the last time we saw it, but still pretty much anything that's coming out of this vault is going to be good. Let's see what we get. We got tier shoulders. We got tier pants. Well, that was a very simple decision there, right? That is a higher item level. Yeah, they're both normal. They're both raid finder. Oh, but the legs are a much bigger upgrade if you look at what we're dealing with. Yeah, that's 20 item levels, so we're going with the legs. The Shouses. Shouses? That's actually a word I don't know. Of Obsidian Secrets. Shouses?
Shows.
Okay then. Alright, let's move on to the next character. Next up, we got the Druid. Playing Resto and Balance still. Think I would rather be Resto for my loot pool, yeah. Alright, here we go, let's see what we get. Tier piece or tier piece. Love that. So, we have a pretty high eye level chest piece. The shoulders will be a bigger upgrade, but I believe the itemization on the chest is really good. So yeah, looks like we'll break the 4-piece and go for the 2-piece with the catalyst this week. Very good. How's it look? I mean, that is a very druidy set. I'll give them that. That looks druid. I don't know if I like it. We'll have to collect more pieces and see how it looks on the Cultiran. Alright, let's move on to the next character. Alright, next up we've got the Rogue. The Rogue got unlucky last week and had to take tokens of merit. We're really hoping that doesn't happen this week. We should have two vault picks though. So, necklace with a socket, which is not too bad, but chances are I mean, that just saves you a little bit of gold, right? You can add your own sockets to necklaces, so. And then, making my 2-piece, well, that's an easy choice. I don't necessarily like the look of that transmog. Maybe it's just the LFR coloring I don't like. Anyway, let's move on to the next character. Next up, the Death Knight. Now, we actually tanked some LFR, so that was cool. Kind of getting into playing Blood, although Blood is, not a meta tank right now, from what I understand. But, the reason is it doesn't do enough damage, and I don't care about that, because that's not what tanking should be about. So, let's see what we get. Of course, we're going to be offered a trinket that my main would have liked at some point. Or some crappy bracers. Well, not much choice here. I'm going to replace those Drogbar stones. Yep. Good job, Death Knight. Alright, let's move to the next character. Next up, we got the Priest. The Priest has a little more to talk about. We gained about 10 item levels this week. We did pretty well. We did LFR, we did normal, we did a bunch of our, like, Zeralek chores and world events and stuff. You can actually get quite a bit of item level from just doing, like, the random crap. Which is nice if you want some variety, right? Like, usually if I'm on my main running 20s, and I can't get a group, it gets late or whatever, then I'll switch one of these alts and do something a little more easygoing. So this character's still pretty decked out, right? Like, Heroic Broodkeeper's Promise, I almost don't want to replace it. This crafted trinket actually works out really well for Holy Priest. And really, I guess we're just hoping to start moving into more of our tier. So, we do want a loot spec for Holy. And let's see what we get. Alright, we got a chest that we could catalyze. And we got boots that we don't want. Chest we could catalyze. Alright, good job, Priest. Let's move on to the next character. Last but certainly not least, we've got the main, the Ret Paladin, sporting a pretty sick new transmog. I actually didn't like the Paladin tier set, but I found a way to make it work. Turns out it was the helmet that I really didn't like. So, Paladin's starting to run into a problem, I'm sure you can see here, and that is that my gear is too good. Like, this is way too good. What is this, week 4 of the patch, right? I'm set, like, there's not a lot that I would need, at least item level wise. Now, drop wise, there's some things I could get that would be nice, right? We're getting dangerously close to starting to look at sockets and starting to think about catalyzing stuff as well. So what do we want? Potentially a trinket, but I mean, we got one of the good raid trinkets we want. We're good on rings. We switched this out for the amulet on single target. We've got our tier set, our 4-piece. We don't have the gloves, and we might use a different setup for AoE, maybe. So a lot of side grades and minor upgrades is what we're looking for. Really, I want those tertiary stats and sockets and stuff to pop into the gear. So this is the big one, lads. Let's get ready. Here we go. Okay. Necklace, which isn't the worst, but eventually I could just craft a spark necklace. A two-hander with speed and haste verse. That is actually quite tempting. Yeah, we're gonna have to sim that. That might actually be the pick. It's not very, very weird that that'll be the one I want, but you don't often see a weapon rolling with an extra stat. Another necklace that's just inferior to the first one. Heroic helm, we don't need that, even though it did roll indestructible. Ooh. A cloak with a transmog that we don't need. And legs that we don't need. So this will be a tough one to sim. I suspect it's gonna be the weapon. It may be that this stat movement could be good for me later, but if we look at my stats now, I have over 4,000 crit rating and over 4,000 versatility rating and around 3,000 haste, and the sims have been leading me to pretty much equalize my stats, keeping verse and crit ahead a little bit. Depends on AoE or single target, right? So this might not even be a DPS increase. This one's close enough though, so I'm gonna sim it. That'll take a minute. We'll see how it turns out.
While I do the sims, remember to smash that like.
Alright, well, interestingly enough, none of these are a DPS increase on a single target. Not a single one, but the weapon is in fact a DPS increase on AoE, and it's got speed, so, you know, I'll save that for doing weird open world content later, right? Just do it a little faster, that's okay. Sadly, no transmog will be acquired here, but, you know, you can't win them all. And that's our last vault to open. My goals this week are to continue pushing. We did pretty well on score. We ended up getting above 2,500, finally. We still never did Neltharis on Tyrannical, so I guess we'll do that this week. This looks like a pretty easy week once they actually turn the affixes on. Time of recording, keystones are disabled because none of the affixes were being applied to the keys. Didn't get in any of those myself, but apparently you didn't get any score for them, so it's not a big deal. So yeah, I'd like to keep pushing some keys. I'd like to get maybe Heroic Sarkareth. I still haven't managed to get into a pug for that, or find any Mythic Raid pugs, although they are starting to appear on the group finder. As for the alts, I think continuing to march through LFR will be the plan. Especially since we now have another wing open for Aberrus, so that'll be fun. Super fun to see what those will be like on LFR. We get some pretty clownin' runs on there, let me tell you, but for my alts at least, it's a good way to gear. And then I've actually been doing some Zul'Gurub farming, farming out the old recipes that were re-added back to the game, and I have a lot of interest in the ones that are coming in 10.1.5 as well. If they bring back the old Nax, old Scholomance, old Strathholm, there's some very interesting things that are being data mined there. As an aside, check your bank alts, your old alts, banks, and bags. If you have stuff like Crusader orbs, Righteous orbs, Essence of Undeath, there's a bunch of materials that are currently very expensive. Old world materials, Arcanite, a bunch of stuff, right? So if it's used in either these Zul'Gurub recipes or potentially what we're seeing in the data mining for the Nax recipes, you could be profiting off speculators like me. So definitely keep that in mind. If you're enjoying these weekly vaults, or you think my transmog is cool, remember to hit that like, smash that subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Again, my name is Darkscream. Peace.